Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to 21 Wire Live. We're here at Anarchapulco 2024, and very pleased to be joined by a couple of special guests. There's a lot of talk about cryptocurrency and what's happening in the Bitcoin space at this amazing event. We've talked about it earlier in some of our earlier interviews as well, and also we're going to be uploading more interviews in the next 2 days of conversations we've had on this and other subjects in the next couple of hours and so forth. So a lot to look forward to in terms of content. But on this live broadcast, there are big things happening in the Bitcoin space, big things happening in the cryptocurrency space that potentially will change the direction of where things are headed now. We're getting into new eras in the story of cryptocurrency and the story of Bitcoin. There's a lot of exciting things happening, but there's a lot of controversial things happening as well. And I'm joined here at the event with Mike Middleton, who is a major observer of the goings on in this part of the technology and the financial space. Mike, welcome to 21 Wire Live.
Patrick, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here as always and to see you.
How's Anarchapulco been for you so far?
This event this year has been, and I think to almost everyone here, almost like a religious experience, because there's just so many good people, and everyone you talk to is just really on fire for what's happening, not only in the cryptocurrency space, but what's happening in the metaphysical, spiritual realm. It's a great time to be alive. It's hard for me to get the smile off my face because I'm having so much fun.
No, there's a lot of amazing people, amazing things happening here. We've been covering some of it. And one of the subjects that has come up in a lot of conversations here is there is a major legal challenge going on in the Bitcoin world. And the trial with Craig Wright is going on right now. Just preface this. Why is this so significant, Mike?
This is so significant because, and I don't mean to be melodramatic, but it's kind of like the future of humanity. And what I mean by that is if the identity of Satoshi is proven to be Craig Wright, it changes everything. It's a game changer. It changes whether or not he owns all the patents and the things that will allow Bitcoin to flourish in the future as it was originally designed by its creator. And so, like you said, it's a trial that's been going on in the UK. It's been going on for, a little while now, and it's still got a long way to go. And so I'm just glad that we were able to, that you're here and making it available. We've got a platform to get the word out and bring some amazing guests on, like what we're going to see here with Mr. Toshi.
So a lot of people are framing this as a kind of, the establishment versus this new insurgent parallel system, economy, society. So you've got COPA, which is an association of, you could say, big tech. I'll let you explain briefly.
Sure.
But it's COPA versus Craig Wright. And Craig Wright regarded by many as one of the real founding pioneers of Bitcoin.
Right.
There's more of a story to that, of course.
Yes. So COPA is the Crypto Open Patent Alliance, and it's a consortium of almost everyone. It's got all of the major big tech players. It has most, if not all, of the exchanges. It's a whole conglomeration, and they're suing Craig Wright because they want his technology. Let's be simple. That's what they want. And so they want to get it, and they're trying to prove that he's not Satoshi. Now, is he Satoshi? Isn't he Satoshi? I have my own opinions, and a lot of people have their opinions. They like to call him fake Toshi, but I've been following the space here now for a very long time. Spent hundreds of hours personally investigating this, and in my opinion, I think he is. He is, in fact, the creator of Bitcoin. He's the man.
Satoshi Nakamoto. The legend, the pseudonym, the myth.
Yes.
That's him. Listen, we'll find out soon enough, or maybe we won't. But you are absolutely, your suspicions or your beliefs are very well grounded, based on the research that you've done, based on your
and I'm going to call it experiential knowledge. I've been into Bitcoin. I know how Bitcoin worked before the forks. I know how it worked after the forks, and I know how BSV is working now.
And what's BSV stand for?
That stands for Bitcoin Satoshi's Vision. And on February 4th of 2020, that is when the Genesis protocol, the Genesis upgrade, was restored to Bitcoin in BSV. And just the other day, I sent to a good doctor 1 penny. I did it in 2 seconds, and I paid a fraction of a penny to do so. I mean, that's even better than Bitcoin worked way back in 14 and 15 and 16 when I was doing it. So,
and BSV itself is a coin.
It's the original Bitcoin, and I believe that Bitcoin now, BSV, is doing either on their testnet or live around 2 million transactions a second,
compared to
7 transactions per second on BTC, which and $20 in fees, whatever they're charging now. So you couldn't even think about sending a penny. So we've gone over this many times, but now the real thing is, and I'm going to preface this whole thing with, it doesn't really matter, in my opinion, whether or not in this trial Craig Wright is proved as Satoshi for 2 reasons. Number one, there's always appellate court decisions that happen afterwards, and I've been involved in those with my own business, so I understand how they work. And also, Bitcoin BSV it's in the wild. It's out there doing its thing. I believe that IBM is developing on Bitcoin BSV right now, as are many others.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, somebody who has been following this trial, this epic trial, is going to be joining us on the line right now. We're going to welcome onto the program Sir Toshi, as he is known on his social media channels. He's joining us right now on the live link. Sir Toshi, are you there?
I'm indeed. How's it going, gents?
Very well indeed. Thank you for joining us here. We're going to bring you right up onto the stage. Front and center here. And Sir Toshi, first of all, frame this trial for us. Where is it? Who's the plaintiff? Who's the defendant? What is the complaint? And where is this at right now? Go ahead. Just put us in the frame on this.
Yeah, great. So we've literally just finished the second week of the trial, and the 2 weeks that have just passed consisted of cross-examination of Craig. And the reason this trial is so important is because it's actually a combination of 3 trials. So initially, Craig was suing the BTC core developers for passing off their SegWit protocol as Bitcoin, when SegWit wasn't in the light paper, replaced by fee wasn't in the light paper. In the white paper, child pays for parent wasn't in there. Second layer solutions weren't in there. Centrally controlled second layer solutions. All this stuff. Also, that centralized through anonymity, because there's now nobody holding those who control the network to account. So it's BTC is now a completely centralized network, and he says, like, look, you cannot list or work on a centralized project using my copyrighted and my intellectual property. So he's suing them for passing off their creation as his creation of Bitcoin. And he's also suing the exchanges for knowingly and willingly participating in this passing off, which was effectively defrauding the customers, because they're buying this restricted 1 megabyte SegWit protocol, thinking that it's Bitcoin when it's nothing like it. They've already said, look, it's a store of value, digital gold. Not many use it. And he's just like, well, if you're not meant to use it, what? So does that mean we're stuck with good old dirty dollar then? Which is obviously what the powers that be want. So that's where they got their funding from. He's just like, look, Bitcoin is a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. It is. In fact, what was so significant about the release of the white paper was that for the first time in history, the white paper actually expressed how to commoditize digital data. In other words, how to give digital data common economic value amongst everybody due to the network that it came from and the abilities that it had, which they've restricted. And so he was suing them. And the judge said, well, because these people that you're suing are they don't want to be sued, and because you haven't proved who you are yet, you're going to have to pay £1.2 million as a security deposit for their costs if you lose. So I'd say like 1.2 million pounds is maybe like 1.6 million US dollars. But when you are the plaintiff, you're the one that has to come forward and provide the evidence. So it's whoever it is that making the claim, they're the ones that have responsibility of proving that claim. And so that sort of like put the BTC core devs and the exchanges kind of like on the back foot. So then COPA came along, which is the Crypto Open Patent Alliance, made up of all the large corporations that are fully in bed with the central bank and the US dollars. And they were just like, right, well, what we need to do is try and put Craig on his back foot, and we're going to sue him. So we now want clarification from a judge that you are not Satoshi Nakamoto. And so rather than having these three cases run separately, all parties involved have agreed to be bound by the decision in this one court case. And so this one court case is being held in London's High Court. The High Court is a court of equity, so it's a court of contract. It's not a court of criminal law or anything like that. And so really what we're doing is we're trying to establish Satoshi Nakamoto's identity, but obviously identity can only be proved with a package proof, as it were. And all we've heard for the past 2 weeks is about forgery and fraud. And if these claims of forgery and fraud were legitimate, because they are criminal claims, there should be criminal reports and police crime numbers associated with them, but there's not. So that's kind of where we're at the moment.
Right. So basically, what's happening here is this a play by big tech, by the establishment, to try to possibly derail Bitcoin in its purest sense, the Bitcoin that was envisioned by the inventor, by the founder in the white paper, by Satoshi Nakamoto? Even if we don't establish the identity of Craig Wright as Satoshi, leave that off to the side, what exactly is going on here in terms of the bigger battle?
Great question. So in order for something to have economic value in an economy, it has to go through a process of commoditization. So, you can't sell an infinite amount of oil, coffee, or water, or, gold. Everything has to be commoditized. In other words, it has to be standardized so that it can then be measured against the cost of other goods and services in the economy, and then used as a medium of exchange. Now, something that is common cannot have a central starting point anywhere. And so in order for the Bitcoin network to be classified as a commodity, it had to go through a period of neutral organic growth without any central point of influence, which is why the creator used a pseudonym and then, a step back very shortly after he'd started the network to just let it grow organically. Now, one of the things that makes a digital network a commodity network is common accountability. So you cannot have a third party involved making decisions over, two people, two parties in a trade. So the parties have to be accountable to one another. And that is where the chain of digital signatures comes into play. So every transaction has a signature attached to it. So I can prove that I've made a transaction to you, and the way the ledger works is that a transaction is then also returned to me. So I can prove that I have traded and contracted with you. Without a signature attached to that contract, and well, like everybody knows, any signature, any contract that isn't signed properly is null and void. And it's the same with a Bitcoin transaction. If there is no signature on that transaction, you cannot tell who sent it or who's received it. You are literally receiving nothing more than numbers on a screen. And the reason we know that Satoshi Nakamoto was always going to prove himself is because all chains of signatures lead back to the Genesis block, which is where accountability ultimately lies. So that's why we know he was always going to reveal himself at some stage. But then the question is, well, at what stage do you do that? Because if he had revealed himself too early and he had too much of influence over the growth of the network, it would have discredited Bitcoin's network, the classification as a commodity. So the creator chose 10 years. And the reason he chose 10 years is because if you are down a casino and you're playing red or black, there is a 0.1% chance that you will throw 10 reds in a row. So in other words, there's a 99.9% chance that you won't throw 10 reds in a row. So if you class each year that passes by as a turn at a casino, after 10 years, if you can go for that long without anybody identifying you and without you having any major influence over the growth of the network, there is a 99.9% chance that no other network will achieve that level of neutral size and growth. And so what he did is he created the Tulip Trust, which contains the very famous Satoshi coins, on the I think it's the 9th of June 2011, and he scheduled those 1.1 million bitcoins to be returned to him on the 1st of January 2020. And that's obviously when he was going to come out and prove himself, and get rid of all the speculation that was in the market, so that we can now focus on real economic utility value. And so the powers that be knew that they had until 2020 to corrupt the network, spin the narrative, prevent people from using it. And that's what they did in 2017 when they implemented SegWit, which was the witness being the signature data. And so they segregated that from the transaction data, meaning there was no digital signatures with the transactions anymore, meaning all transactions were economically worthless. So what they've done is they've actually created an economically worthless security, also unregistered, and they've stolen the name and ticker symbol. So it's straight up fraud, really, what they've done, and that's what this court case is going to sort out. I think you're muted.
So when you say you stole the ticker symbol, you're talking about BTC, right?
Yeah.
So just quickly, for those Toshi who aren't au fait, what is the difference in a nutshell between Bitcoin and BTC?
So Bitcoin, again, in section 2 of the white paper, is defined as a chain of digital signatures. And when I say Bitcoin, I'm not talking about the token. I'm talking about the Bitcoin network. The network itself is ultimately defined as a chain of digital signatures, because that is what creates common accountability. But also, in order for a network to be, again, classified as a commodity, you cannot have any limitations or restrictions. Because if the network does have any limitations or restrictions, it means it can be manipulated. And if it can be manipulated, it can then be centrally controlled. So you cannot have a block cap. And the block cap, the soft cap was placed, I think, in 2010. I can get the date for you. But again, that was only put in there because I suspect Satoshi also had made contacts with nefarious entities who didn't really understand what Bitcoin was, but they were just like, okay, well, we don't know what it is yet, but if we can somehow restrict it or limit it, that will cause issues later on, which we can then spin the narrative on and, cause all this speculation and, division, if you want, within the space, if you like. But really, what happened is on the 24th of August 2017, when the digital signatures were segregated from the transaction data, because that was a fundamental change to the protocol, any fundamental changes result in a change in the Bitcoin legacy addresses. And if you go back and see the very first sort of like transaction from Satoshi to Hal Finney, the ledger records the transaction with Bitcoin legacy addresses that begin with the number 1. Again, you can go back to the Marty Malmi transaction. You can have a look at the Bitcoin Pizza Day transaction. They all start with Bitcoin legacy addresses beginning with the number 1. And I suspect that is because digital data can only be commoditized one way. And any, the very first sort of manufactured items that come off the production line, they all have the number 1 to indicate that they are the first and genuine and original kind of item. So number 1 had already been taken. So on the 24th of August 2017, when the Blockstream devs created an alternative protocol, the number 1 address was already taken. So they had to then come up with new addresses indicating a fundamental change to the protocol. And now all BTC legacy addresses begin with the letters BC or the number 3. And I suspect they chose the number 3 because it's the only number that looks similar to a capital B. But that's the change. So really, you want to make sure that you're only dealing with legacy addresses that start with the number 1. I think you're muted.
Yeah. So yeah, thanks. Just putting that aside, so to keep it from reaching its potential, Bitcoin, to keep it from becoming the utility that you were talking about, it had to be slowed down, and had to be B, restricted, throttled in different ways. Rather than being peer-to-peer, needed to be everything run through middlemen or exchanges and invalidate it as a valid contract. So those 3 things, you've kind of described some of them. Is this what is really also behind this power play that we're seeing in the high courts in London? Go ahead, Satoshi.
Yeah, that's exactly what's going on. The fraud that's being perpetrated on is that people said, oh, you can't change Bitcoin. Well, it's true, you can't change Bitcoin, but what you can do is you can create an alternative protocol and steal the ticker symbol. And if you do it and say, oh yeah, well, we're making these changes, but that's good for you, people are just like, oh right, they must know what they're doing, it's good for us. No. If someone makes a fundamental change, that someone has now got control of it, and all they had to do was collude with the exchanges, to list this alternative protocol as the ticker symbol that people associated with with the original protocol, and that's the fraud.
Toshi, I have a question for you, and I'm going to bring it back to the trial a little bit. So I know these first 2 weeks, Craig Wright has been in the hot seat.
You're frozen, Mike.
Toshi, I think we got you back, Toshi. Sorry, we had a drop in the stream. Go ahead.
I didn't actually hear Mike's question there.
Okay, that's fine. I'll repeat it. Basically, what I asked is, now that we've gone through 2 weeks where Craig Wright was on the defensive, how do you think he did, number 1? And number 2, once he's going to be able to come forward, what do you think? Let's speculate a little bit what might be coming if we can, or where do you think this might go?
Oh yeah, well, I mean, the first 2 weeks, honestly, if you were on Team Satoshi, you couldn't have asked for anything better. Especially when you actually consider that Craig is genuinely Asperger's. He has got a phenomenal brain on him, but when it comes to dealing with people, when you're Asperger's, it's really, really hard because you don't necessarily pick up on all the social etiquette and sometimes a little bit of sarcasm, and you don't understand why people would lie. There's no point in an Asperger's mind. What is the point in lying? There's no point. And people are better off when they work together. Whereas obviously fiat currency, drives people apart, and they act in self-interest rather than for the common good and all that. The tragedy of the commons sort of theory and all that. Craig literally was patient. He was listening to the question that was actually being put to him. He was explaining why the question was wrong. I mean, he even said sometimes, look, you're being disingenuous with that question. I can't answer that. I can't answer that question as a simple yes or no, because that's kind of like falling into the you're not phrasing it in a way that is genuine, as it were. So literally, he has been focused. He has been calm, cool, collected, explaining everything. And literally, what's fascinating about this is that if he was lying, my goodness me, he has got to be the best liar on the planet, because literally he had an answer for everything. I would put to you that I don't know any, because if you want to find out who's lying, what you would do is you just simply keep asking questions, and eventually the lie will break down because the lie doesn't make sense. Whereas Craig's stories have not once wavered. They've not faltered. They've not been changed at all. And this has been going on for 2 weeks. An intensive cross-examination from the COPA lawyer. And Craig has literally answered every single question and explained it with reason and rationale and foresight and everything. So, that's gone brilliant in my eyes. And Craig has actually kind of like hinted that there's something big coming. But I mean, whether or not he's toying with them, I don't know. But I think he wanted to get his story out and explain it. But he said he would not ever sign until his proof package has been accepted by the court. So in other words, everything that he's done throughout his entire life, which all lead up to being able to create and come up with the creation of Bitcoin, and then he said he might sign. But again, the reason he won't do that until he's proved himself is because, as he keeps saying, possession is not proof of ownership. If I have your house key or your car key, does that mean I own your car or your house? No, it doesn't. And so even if he did sign, then the question would be, well, prove you didn't steal those keys. Prove Satoshi didn't hand you those keys. So we come back to the same problem. So he said, literally, there is no point in signing until I have proved my identity. And that's what this court is all about, even though in 2021, he was already granted copyright of the white paper by London's High Court because the defendant Cobra didn't turn up to defend the claim, and also he won and was recognized as the sole and rightful owner to the Satoshi coins in the Kleiman case. So it was found by a jury, by a trial by jury, that he mined those coins on his own. And of course, he had to mine them on his own because the starting point had to be kept secretive. There is no way that he could have risked mining that with someone else with the amount of a media attention and everything that he knew, if this thing took off, would potentially come with it. There's no way. And so he's already won and recognized as being the rightful owner of the Satoshi coins. But the judge was very careful to say, so we now recognize you as the sole and rightful owner of the Satoshi coins that only Satoshi Nakamoto could have. But we are not saying that you are Satoshi Nakamoto.
Mike, well, based on what Sir Toshi is telling us here, Sir Toshi, not Satoshi, just to be clear for you guys listening on the audio podcast, Sir Toshi TV, check him out on X, Twitter, at Sir Toshi TV. Based on what he's just said here, what you said about, you're absolutely certain based on what you know that Satoshi Nakamoto is Craig Wright.
Yes.
It's hard to argue with that.
Yeah,
based on what was just said here.
Yeah, and I agree. And then I'll have another question for Satoshi. And Satoshi, you can take it from what I say here. It is hard to argue outside of a court of law. But when you're in a court of law, you have to follow rules. You have to have expert witnesses. And there's a few other people that are following the trial and reporting on it. So there's only a few of us that are out there. I know Gavin Mail is one. I know Kurt Walker Jr. is another. And of course, I'm following them all. And some of their concerns are that the expert witnesses, which have been presented, which some of where Craig Wright wasn't happy with, there's rules in the court, and so that's what I want to ask you, Sir Toshi, is the rules of the court are going to possibly create a problem for the judge because he has to rely on the expert witnesses. So can you comment on that and tell me what your opinion is and what you think?
I mean, obviously, we've still got. The trial is still continuing, and I suppose if you want to call it in terms of Craig's position, the hardest part is literally just finished because it was a cross-examination. The cross-examining lawyer obviously wants to make him look bad. He wants Craig to give him answers that sort of suit his agenda, which are simple yes/no answers, which is why Craig was calling him out, saying, look, the question is disingenuous. You know that I can't answer a yes or no to that, and this is the reason why, and blah, 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 blah. And it's going to be interesting because even Craig said, look, who is it that classifies these people as experts? and in fact there was the issue with the watermark that he claims he put into the LaTeX file that he made the original white paper from. And the watermark is just not, you cannot view it in a sort of standard text file format. And he was just like, look, the reason they can't see this watermark is that they don't know it's there, because I put it there. I will show you how to see it. Right. So there's all this kind of stuff, but I would say that the picture will be much clearer at the end of the trial when all is said and done. But again, I strongly suspect that Craig will probably tear these expert witnesses a new butthole. I expect, because literally, as he said to who's the guy from Ripple? Joel goes by the name of David Schwartz. That's right.
Yeah.
Craig said in a tweet, he said, "Look, you do not get rid of me. I created this industry. I created, and expressed blockchain technology, and he created NFTs." And every single crypto token is a non-fungible token. And as I was explaining in a podcast earlier today, you cannot patent or copyright anything in nature or anything that is naturally occurring. And in order for Bitcoin to be a commodity, the commoditization process has to be effectively naturally reoccurring. It can't be created or invented by someone. And so you can't patent blockchain technology in the same way that you can't patent the concept of the number one, because blockchain is just simply a way of linking data together. There's nothing really special about it. But what you can do is you can patent technology developed on top of that. And that's what he's got. And every single crypto token is a non-fungible token built on blockchain technology that he has the intellectual patents for. So that means all these shitcoins, all these economically worthless illegal security offerings can go. But when that goes, that obviously challenges the powers that be in the central banking system, who are perpetrating securities fraud on the world at the moment, who have got their finger on the currency printers, and they've currently got an unlimited amount of economic power at their fingertips, which they don't want. So that's kind of what we're up against.
So just I'm going to wrap this up, but sure. A couple of final questions. Okay. So Sir Toshi, are we really looking at taking the 100,000 foot view here? It's kind of a battle between fake blockchains and pseudo blockchains and faux blockchains from the real blockchain as it was initially designed, the genesis of it. And it also seems, I don't know if you agree or not, a lot of people here at Anarchapulco 2024 are in the minds that this is also about suppressing that, and also suppressing things like BSV that could potentially allow it to reach its potential, what it was originally designed to do. Your final thoughts on this, Sir Toshi?
I would say that what you've said there is absolutely spot on. And again, the powers that be spun the narrative in this period of speculation up until, the 1st of January 2020, where he couldn't come out and say, by the way, I'm Satoshi Nakamoto. This is what the network is used for, because it would have undermined the classification as a commodity. But really what you need to think of, you need to think of Bitcoin as an economically competitive, globally distributed network. And the Bitcoin network itself is the structure of it, the fundamental creation of it is in a Mandela format. So it's not a mesh network. It's literally one of the most efficient distributed networks, system structures in the world. So blockchain that you refer to there is actually just simply the process that data goes through to get uploaded onto the network. That's all it is. But because that's a process, the powers that be have just gone, oh yeah, we can call it blockchain now, and everybody thinks it's a blockchain. Well, but it's a distributed ledger that uses the process of blockchain to upload information onto the network. You've really got to think about it in the net as a network, really.
Yeah, and the power of that network, as you're talking about, the difference earlier when we started the conversation, Mike, the difference between 7 transactions a minute versus
A second.
a second versus 1.2 million.
Well, I think we're up to 2 million, and I think we're going much higher if you go back and see what Craig talks about, and basically what that gives you, and which is where this goes back to my life. None of us is 100% honest. The goal is to strive to be honest. And that's something I've always at least tried to do very, very hard in my life. And so when I found Bitcoin, you see that it's a truth machine, and it's going to compel not only you and me, but government. Now, that's not going to happen overnight.
Yeah.
That's going to take time.
Private central banks.
Yeah.
Fiat currency.
Yeah. All the things that, now the whole world's waking up to.
Yeah. Yep. If you guys, if you gents want to know the actual number, Craig put a post out, I think it was 2022, I think it was, where he said they'd filed paperwork proving that blockchain can scale to 10 to the power of 11 transactions per second. So that's 100 billion
per second.
Yeah, per second.
So that and that's why Bitcoin, and when we talk about all these privacy coins, I understand the desire. Especially down here in Anarchapulco, they use a lot of Monero, and it makes sense. The little community, they all got soccer shirts in Monero, and it's freedom for them. So wherever you can find freedom, it's what you want. But ultimately, we all have to live on one communication platform, right? We're all one. We're all one. So we just want to act like it. We want to treat each other with kindness and throw off those who are feeding off us. That's simple.
Yeah, I'll just add a little bit to that as well. So this is the main thing that people need. Well, there's lots of things people need to understand, but one of them is the difference between anonymity and privacy. So anonymity is what you would seek if you were in the toilet cubicle. No one knows you're in there. You can do your business, and no one knows what you've done. And that means that you're not accountable to anybody. Privacy, on the other hand, is what you and your partner would seek behind the bedroom door. You can identify each other, you can engage with each other, but no third party can see, hear, or interfere. And that means that should a dispute arise between the two of you that you can't resolve yourselves, should you want to, if you wish, take the evidence and present it to a third party who can solve the dispute for you. So that's the difference. Anonymous networks are completely centrally controlled by those who maintain the network because they're not accountable to anybody. You need privacy, and that's where the chain of digital signatures comes in. And this is why all attacks on Bitcoin all focus around the signatures. You've got Blockstream that segregated the digital signatures. You've got Roger Ver and his friends that try to obfuscate these signatures and sort of like add schnorr signatures, which just meant that you were scrambling the signatures. Those signatures have to be visible to both parties in the trade, because that is sending Bitcoin is like sending a contract of value. And if there is no signature on that contract is null and void, just like a Bitcoin transaction. So that's really what that's what people really need to comprehend.
Toshi, I just want to thank you for making the time today. I know we've been trying to get together, and you've been doing a bang up job trying to do your world as well as follow the trial. So I just want to thank you for actually coming here. And it's a perfect day. It's the end of the week, so now we've gotten through the worst part of it for Craig, and now we can get to see he's been playing defense for 2 weeks. Let's see what happens when he gets to play offense.
Absolutely.
So Toshi, you're giving great trial updates, and you're doing that on X, Twitter. How can people find your work, subscribe, etc.? Go ahead.
It might be a little bit tricky. I am very trigger happy when it comes to my block button. Obviously, because the views that I have go against the mainstream. But you can find me on Twitter at Sir Toshi TV.
Okay. Yeah, we posted that. We got that tagged up there, and so people will be able to find you there. And again, we really appreciate you joining us. We're down here at Anarchapulco 2024. Hopefully, we'll keep the lines open and get future updates. Things are going to get interesting. Hopefully, we'll be able to come back to you for more in the future. But again, we really appreciate you joining us here at Anarchapulco 2024. Back in the VIP podcast lounge here with Mike Middleton. Thank you, Sir Toshi.
You're welcome. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me.
There he goes, ladies and gentlemen. So, Mike, that's interesting. It's a little more detail, a little more play-by-play.
Well, obviously, he has a knowledge. That's why, I asked him to come on because, I just met him not too long ago. And, we talked offline quite a bit about this. And he has a lot of knowledge about not just Bitcoin, but other things going on in the world, which that's why he kind of prefers to keep his privacy, which, I respect that. But you could tell like his knowledge and his ability to actually talk about, where he's been and what he's done in the space. He's got firsthand knowledge, which I'm not going to go into. Right.
But what I liked about is how he sort of boiled it down and, showed the how it was simplified, what's at stake.
Yep.
Who's to benefit, who's to lose. And I think it's been, from that point of view, extremely informative.
Anyone, in my opinion, anyone who's thinking and honest and rational will have a hard time refuting what he says.
Yeah, no, this is a fascinating case, Mike.
Yeah,
this is there's so much steeped in mystery with the identity of Satoshi Nakamoto. This has been going on for years.
Yep.
And it's just one of those enigmas. Some people thought he completely didn't exist, that it could have been an amalgamation of many different people.
And I still think, even though I think he's the author of the white paper, if you go back and do the research and see what was going on before, long before, there's all sorts of stuff with his name and others. So he might not be the only one, but it doesn't matter because he's the one who actually issued everything, and he's the one who's got the white mark, and he's the one who answers all the questions, not only in this trial but long before. I've been watching him answer every question.
We're going to try to do follow-up, keep some follow-ups on this after we leave the event in Anarchapulco. But again, really appreciate Satoshi joining us as well. Follow him on X Twitter, find out what he's talking about, what he's saying. And again, Mike,
Patrick, thank you for doing this, because we just met each other recently.
Yeah. And
you jumped right in and assisted me in many, many ways to bring this message. So I just want to know that it's really appreciated.
Well, that's one of the great things about this event is where a lot of people were just meeting each other for the first time.
Yeah.
All mixing and mingling here at this amazing event hosted by Jeff Berwick.
Well, and we need to thank Jeff Berwick, because Jeff Berwick is what, he's the glue that not only makes this event happen, but is all the people here and the locals. There's Anarchapulco signs all over the place.
Yeah.
And these people depend on this event.
Yeah,
it's giving this town a name,
especially after the hurricane.
After the hurricane and
yeah.
earthquakes, and it's wonderful.
So I'm just pleased they were able to rebuild. We talked to the owners of this great establishment, the Secret Garden, what they had to
and I'm also going to say, if you look at the State Department, Acapulco, it's the most dangerous place. Are you kidding me? I walk all over this town at night in the dark with the doors open. There isn't one person that's being hurt. Everyone's friendly. Speak a little Spanish. Maybe.
Isn't that funny, Mike? That just the days before this event started, the U.S. State Department issued a warning: don't go to Acapulco.
Oh, all my friends are telling me, "Are you going down there? Be careful."
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, be careful.
Do you think it has anything to do with this event? What do you think?
I mean,
or is that just a coincidence?
I feel safer here than I do back in the States in those places.
Honestly, yeah, but they do that all the time, and so we'll reserve. There's no conspiracy theories.
No.
We're not going to entertain any of that, but make up your own mind on that one, guys. But again, thank you guys, and our studio audience back here as well. Appreciate you guys for joining us, Anarchapulco 2024. Got amazing people. I'm going to go catch Dr. Andy Kaufman on the main stage.
Nice. And maybe a little pool, a little ocean. I mean, the water out here is amazing.
We'll go for a dip afterwards. Yeah. So hopefully do that. So yeah. Anyway, we're going to be signing out. It's probably going to be our last podcast.
Yep, I think so.
For the event, because we're moving on next couple of days. But again, it's been a great event, really informative. I'm sure people out there on the streams have enjoyed this and gotten something out of it. But that's us signing out from Anarchapulco 2024. Keep an eye on our Rumble channels on YouTube. We'll be uploading some interviews that we filmed yesterday. So the next 24 hours, and they'll also be on the other Anarchapulco platforms as well. So everybody will be able to have access and see all these things in due course. So that's us, folks. We'll be leaving you now, and take care. All the best. We'll see you on the next live for 21 Wire.